Hello, and welcome to the Calling the Real You podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Horton, and I call the real you out each and every week with special guests like the one we have today. Today, we are talking with Deborah Wayne. We'll be discussing how to live pain free, and who doesn't want to do that? Live pain free. I'm talking about physical, emotional pain. Deborah Wayne, founder of the Pain Free Living Program, is an internationally known energy healer and pain relief specialist whose expertise is helping people to rapidly remove the hidden root cause for chronic pain, depression, anxiety, trauma, and struggles with food, weight, addictions, and more. Deborah, welcome to the Calling the Real You podcast.
Thank you, Pamela. Such a beautiful pleasure to be here.
I am so thrilled that you are with us and sharing time and space and energy. It's an honor to have you, and I'm really excited to dig deep today. What you're doing in the world is pretty important, and a lot of people need to know about you and the work that you're doing. And it's a privilege and an honor to be able to share you with at least my part of the world, meaning Calling the Real You.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm very honored and just excited to share with your audience today.
Awesome, thank you. I want to mention a little bit before I go ahead into the questions here. For those of you who don't know Deborah, she had her own very real health wake-up call, and that took place about 30 years ago, I believe. And it's a very interesting story. She was immersed both personally and professionally. Ever since then, she became immersed personally and professionally in the healing arts, and her life's work really unites both leading edge science and spiritual healing. And for all of you who've been with me for a few months now, you know that Calling the Real You is bringing you spirituality, is bringing you ideas and leading edge science techniques and tools to help you live a better life. And she features her revolutionary, non-invasive method known as the biofield healing, which is helping people to get their energy and lives back on track. And that's why I'm so super excited to have Deborah here. Deborah, how is it that you ended up here? Can you talk a little bit about what your wake-up call, your health wake-up call was?
Absolutely. It was a regular Monday morning, like any other Monday. I should have just gotten up and gone to work, but that Monday morning, I found myself on the floor of my closet, and I couldn't get dressed, and I couldn't stop crying, and I couldn't get up. And I finally had gotten to this place in my life where I just couldn't go on living the lie that nobody even knew I was living. I was bankrupt in every area of my life except financially. And inside, I really just couldn't go on. The pain was just too great, physically, mentally, emotionally, and I didn't even know what spiritually was at that time. So I hit the bottom, literally. I call it my closet crisis. And that seemingly worst day of my life actually turned out to be the greatest, most important day of my life, and turned everything around. And since that time, so much has happened that's what enabled me. That turning point enabled me to be here with you today, to be able to give back and share with others how to get out of a health hell crisis, just like I was in.
You work with people, you help people who are stuck and who are suffering with conditions and painful patterns that often seem really hopeless. Yeah. First of all, how is it that you protect yourself from that, right? Because we are who we hang out with. And I know that you're an expert, and I know that you are working from experience, not only from your own personal experience, but now the countless number of people that you've been helping with over the years. Mm-hmm. How do you protect yourself from that? And what does it feel like to be of service in that regard?
Interesting question. So I don't really feel there's anything to protect myself from other than myself. You see, I don't walk around in fear anymore. I am very clear on who I am, what I'm here to do, who I'm here to serve, and I don't take on people's stuff, quote unquote, like I used to. I have my own daily rituals that I am religious about to take care of my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health. I make sure that that's a top priority for me. And when I'm working with people, I mean, truly, my whole life really has become about giving back in one regard because it's such an honor. It's when you get your life back like I did. I mean, really, I had to change everything, and if I hadn't, I would have died. Literally, black and white died. And when I got a second chance and a clean slate, it made me want to give back because it's so exciting when you finally get answers and solutions that work. And to walk around and see so many people needlessly suffering, it is the greatest pleasure. And I really feel like I'm honestly living my deepest, highest purpose now, and for many years now. So I just want to give back. Now, again, back to your excellent question, it's a give and take, an ebb and flow. I mean, you can't just give without taking care of yourself, or there'll be nothing left to give. So I'm very good about making sure I get my needs met, and then I have something to give back, and I don't deplete my energy. I mean, I'm human like everyone else too, so I have to take care of my energy.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for being an excellent role model and for really fulfilling your destiny, right? I feel like after spending a little bit of time with you and studying your work and reading up on you, I feel like you've are fulfilling your destiny. You've lived up to that challenge, that adversity, and you came through to the other side. You unblocked yourself, so to speak. And speaking of being blocked, why is it that some people are so stuck or blocked and just can't seem to get relief from the pain that they're in, or the patterns that are recurring over and over again in their lives that keep them in that self-fulfilling prophecy, or even symptoms no matter what they try?
Yeah, I see this everywhere. So people are actually not stuck and not blocked. What it is that they have not gone deep enough to find the real root cause of their pain and suffering. Because the number one mistake everyone makes is that they actually resist the symptoms and the pain that they need to dive into in order to get the answer. And most people, we live in a world that emphasizes symptom treatment. You cut it out or you drug it out. And so people walk around trying to put Band-Aids over their symptoms. They're focused on the symptoms and typically on the physical body or whatever the symptom is. You could be having financial issues and patterns that repeat, but people focus on the symptom of that, which might be debt. But that is not the root. The symptom is never the real root cause. And until you go deep down and find the hidden reasons that are underneath the symptoms, people will not heal. And what most people do is they resist the very thing they need to explore because they're afraid of it, or they don't have the tools to deal with it on their own. They try to figure it out with their mind, and they don't have a guide that they feel safe, in a safe environment where they can let emotions come up and fear come up and the pain actually come up. And then that's how it moves out. Most people are trying to run away from their pain and their patterns and their symptoms. Does that make sense?
100%. It's very counterintuitive. We don't want to experience pain, yet we put ourselves through the pain by not addressing the root cause.
Exactly. And that perpetuates the suffering, the pattern, the symptoms, on and on, ad infinitum. And that's what, why everybody feels so stuck and blocked. They're really not stuck and blocked. They just have not had anyone help them go deep enough.
It's super important to have a safe environment to be able to do that. And you're right, not many of us know even where to go for that, or the guidance and with regards to, again, releasing, healing, etc. And that's where your programs are super helpful. I mentioned the program that you developed, the Biofield Healing. Yes. And first, tell us what that is.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So what's happening now is we're on the verge of a major revolution in the healthcare industry, and the whole idea of health and the healing process is changing. And we're now becoming aware that there is a field of energy known as the biofield that surrounds the body. And this holds the key to our health and to illness. And when I say this, I mean physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all of it. The biofield is a field of energy and information. And it's like having a recording device that's been turned on since you were born, recording every experience you've had. And there are many things that happen to us along the road that we don't realize how deeply they impact us. And many, many things happen in childhood before the age of 8, where it really sets the foundation for the rest of our life. And we adopt thinking patterns and emotions and emotional reactions that aren't serving us. They're actually causing us pain and suffering, but it's unconscious because the brain, we know from science, we know that the brain doesn't have the ability to discern what is true or what is false before the age of until after the age of 8. The brain just is like a computer downloading every file, just taking it in. There's no firewall, there's no virus protection. It's just saying yes to everything. So we may have all kinds of experiences depending on the environment we're in. It could be very violent, it could be very painful, it could be very lonely. There could be just so much trauma, or even just dysfunctional thinking and emotions that are upsetting, and fear, whatever it is that we're soaking in, I call it, in that environment we're soaking in before the age of 8. We're recording all of this. And it's actually how we end up many, sometimes 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, still acting out what we learned in childhood. But we don't know we're doing that. And that's where, when the pain happens and we can't stand it one more day, just like what happened to me, it's actually a gift because it's got a message in it that we need to go back and explore. And with biofield healing, it brings this stuff up very rapidly, in many cases, into a person's conscious mind. And it helps them rapidly remove the hidden root cause that might take you 10 years in talk therapy. You may never even find it talking about it, trying to find what's wrong, quote unquote. But the biofield healing will tap into your energy field, your biofield, and bring these things up and move them out. It's really exciting. It's a whole new phase becoming known as information medicine, and sometimes referred to as energy medicine. Either one, but it's changing the face of everything that we know about healing and the healing process.
I love that. You know, I often talk about my husband on the show. He and I are huge wellness, health fanatics. We definitely are proponents of taking care of you and your body and listening to your body. And what you're saying is, if our body is screaming at us, whether it's in neck pain, knee pain, back pain, all of the above, some sort of dis-ease or misalignment, it's screaming at us to take a look at it. And we also we want to help people become free from the health care, so to speak. Yes. And so this is one of the reasons why I wanted you on the show, is because of the work that you're doing, and it's brilliant. And I would love it if you could share a couple of examples of those that you've helped, that you've worked with, and what, with regards to the benefits and the transformation that the biofield healing has done for them.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So many examples. I've worked with people a wide range of symptoms and diagnoses and diseases. And so one that comes to mind, this is fairly common nowadays, where this woman came in and she had terrible digestive issues. She was throwing up for like 9 months, and the doctors had no idea why. Nothing was showing up on a medical test. Can you imagine? Throwing up for 9 months. She had to stop working, stop traveling, stop going to the gym. I mean, her life was on hold. She couldn't eat anything. She had gone gluten-free, wheat-free, dairy-free. I mean, she was living on air. And this poor woman had no idea what to do, and the doctors wanted to do surgery, even though they didn't know what was wrong with her. In the very first session, within less than an hour, we just sat down and I started having a conversation with her. it became very apparent that she had emotions that she was quote unquote not digesting. She was unaware of these emotions. They were causing the problem. We got them to move up and out. She never threw up again. She went back to eating everything she wanted. She started traveling again, going to the gym. She had a second home she was able to go back to. I mean, her whole life went from a jail cell back to freedom in less than an hour, Pamela. How exciting is that, right?
It's incredible. It really is.
Oh, I know. That's just one example. Another example. Oh, my goodness. This woman, she had cancer for the second time. The first time she had it, she had gone through chemo and radiation, and it went into remission for a 2-year period. And it came back, and it came back full bore. And by the time she went to the doctor, they said, "We can't even help you. You're so far gone. We won't even offer you chemo." And she had tumors everywhere. She didn't know what to do. And somehow she found me, and I began to work with her. And in the second session, and by the way, she did nothing else. Again, she wasn't eating very much. She had a great attitude, but she really was, her life had become very limited at that point. And I started working with her in the second session, and I find this to be true with most everyone, no matter what they're suffering from, but particularly with breast cancer. I've seen this again and again. She had a deep emotional release. Now, we hadn't even been talking about anything. I just facilitated biofield healing for her. She started sobbing, and she sobbed probably 15 minutes. And when I finished that session and asked her how she was feeling, what she experienced, she said, "Deborah, I now know what happened that caused this cancer. I know it had something to do with her ex-husband who had passed away, something he said that created a deep hurt in her, that just it was such a deep wound, and she never was able to let that go or forget about it. And it had been eating away at her like a cancer, literally, for years. But she became aware of it. And not only that, she made peace with it without ever talking to me in the session. She was able to make peace with it, literally let it go. And when she opened her eyes, she looked at me and smiled from ear to ear. And she said, "Deborah, I know I am going to be well, and I am not going to be dying of cancer." And I worked with her for a month, only once a week for a month, which is really not very much for someone with that late stage cancer. And she went back and had a CT scan the day after our final session, and her tumors had reduced 82%. And within another month, her doctors declared her in full remission, never to return. Wow. That is what's possible.
Wow, that's incredible. That just gives me goosebumps because not only were you able to help facilitate it in such a short period of time, but the release of it, the release of the emotion is what makes me feel happy for her. People don't understand, or maybe they do, I don't know. We retain everything that we hear, just as you said, not only as a little child, but even into adulthood. We retain it. Our cells retain the information and inside our consciousness, and for you to be able to facilitate that is just remarkable.
It really is so exciting. It's why I'm so passionate about this, because I've seen people with such severe anxiety they can't leave the house. I can't tell you the thousands of people I've worked with who are living on some kind of pain medication or antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds, high blood pressure medication. I worked with so many people racked with pain from head to toe. They've, some kind of either joint pain or head, neck, back, shoulder, you name it. The pain. It's just humongous out there. They say that, I think the statistics are that 2/3 of all Americans will seek help, professional help, because their stress level has gotten so high that they're in pain over it. And most people who are in pain, it ends up also drawing both depression and or anxiety along with it, so it gets compounded. And then if it goes on 3 months or longer, it becomes a chronic condition, and that's when people really turn a corner where they just don't know what to do, and they become obsessed with getting rid of the symptom, and they don't know how to go deep enough to release these emotions and look at their thinking in a new way and see what's really going on at a deeper level. And the biofield healing method just helps accelerate this more rapidly than anything I'm aware of. Just so many people now that I've worked with that are pain-free and they got off their meds. And I'm not a doctor. I don't ever give medical advice. I don't make any guarantees. I don't treat the symptoms. I just facilitate this amazing form of energy healing that is based on science. This is based on quantum physics. And it is the future for medicine as far as I can see. It's revolutionary.
Mm-hmm. I want to take a moment here and just take a step back to explain a little bit more about your background. When Deborah's saying energy healing and biofield and energy field, for those of you who are listening, Deborah has an extensive history, 30 plus years in psychology and hypnotherapy and chemical dependency counseling. Deborah's someone who has done her homework and has done her research and has applied it, both theory and application, on herself and others. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because sometimes people in this space, and what I mean by this space is personal spiritual development, may go for a certification or two. What I'm trying to do, and I feel like I'm doing a fairly decent job, as giving you credibility, because you mentioned the science behind it and quantum physics, etc. And I felt the need to just point that out to everybody, that you are someone who didn't go to school for 80 hours to have this certification. I mean, you are a professional woman with credible experiences behind you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think what people don't realize, there's a lot of research. There's 25 years of research, but it's not mainstream medicine. So you're not hearing about it. You're not seeing it on infomercials, but there's major research out of Stanford and UCLA, and even the NIH has done research on energy healing. And now there are nurses here where I live in the San Diego area. The nurses down at UCSD in integrative medicine, they're performing, they're getting paid to practice a form of healing touch, which is a non-touch energy medicine method in the hospital. See, this is the future of medicine, but most people aren't familiar with it yet. But there's research from Rupert Sheldrake and William Tiller, PhD, and Valerie Hunt from UCLA. These people have amazing, documented, hard science about what I'm talking about. And it really bridges the gap between science and some of what might be considered spiritual healing. It's the scientific explanation for spiritual healing.
I love that. Thank you. It's all right. So there might be some skeptical people who are listening,
Sure.
or they may not understand completely and totally what the modality like biofield healing is completely. Will it still work on them or for them?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the other beautiful characteristic of this, is it doesn't require a person's belief for it to work. I use the example of your electricity, your light switch. How many people really understand how electricity works? But you go every day, you walk over to that switch, you flip it on, and you expect it to work, the lights to come on. And you can't see what's happening. It's invisible to the eye. This is similar, also like your cell phone. There are waves of information being carried, but it's invisible to the eye. And so I understand that when something is new, most people are skeptical until it becomes common knowledge. It wasn't that long ago that the majority of the people on planet Earth thought the Earth was flat, and if you got to the edge, you would fall off. And now they would just laugh if you said that. But that's because at that time, around 100 years ago, the majority of the people believed that. And so the realm of energy medicine is relatively new to most people. So it seems a little like, I don't know about that. And you know what? I welcome skeptics. The skeptics become my greatest fans because you see, this method provides an experience. It's not it's not me trying to convince you of anything. You don't have to study it. You don't have to intellectually have a degree in quantum physics. You just have an experience. And once you have an experience, you can't deny your own experience. And that's what separates this from so much that's out there. It's not just intellectual information. It's an actual experience. You'll feel something or have some kind of experience that will be unique to you, and no one can take that away from you.
So true. There's so many side effects. So if someone were to go the route of traditional Western medicine, there's some, take a pill for everything kind of mentality, and there's side effects, right? You watch a commercial for an ailment, and the commercial for the actual prescription is about 30 seconds, if that, 10 seconds, and the remainder of the commercial is all about the side effects. Are there any side effects with biofield healing?
The only side effect is typically peace, relaxation, a quieter mind. People report sleeping for the first time in years. There's no negative side effects at all. It can do no harm. It is truly non-invasive and can do no harm. And the worst thing that can happen is somebody says, I just didn't feel anything, or I didn't notice anything. But there's nothing negative at all that can happen. For most people, it's actually a pleasant way to have change occur. Now, I will say it's so remarkably powerful that if somebody has toxins, for example, or bacteria or viruses or heavy metals and things like that, people often have a detoxification reaction, just like you would if you took a cleanse or a homeopathic remedy or even acupuncture. It can often bring up a cleansing reaction. We call it a detox reaction. But you don't have to take anything to stimulate that reaction. So it's quite interesting. Again, it's just being able to work energetically, but it affects the physical.
We were talking earlier about whether or not we were going to do a demonstration today. Yeah. And what I offered up was actually having Deborah come back for another show, and where we can dive even a little bit deeper, ask a few more questions. But for those of you who are listening and would like to actually experience a session as a demo on the podcast itself, on the Calling the Real You podcast, I invite you to email me, and I'll put that email in the write-up of the actual podcast description for today's show. But we would love to have you join us and experience Deborah's work, and then be able to speak to it on the show itself. So if you're interested, please let me know. I have one more question, and then I believe I would love to, actually I have two more questions, but let me ask the second to last question here. How is it that you work? Meaning, where and how do you facilitate your sessions and your programs?
So my clients are all over the world. I worked on tens of thousands of people who I've never met, never seen, and in some cases never even spoken to. It's really exciting because I do not need to be in person. I work both individually and at the group level, and I have online programs where you can dial in over a telephone line or an internet link. And I also have a practitioner program, and we do that all, again, over the internet, but it's a video platform where we can see each other. So there's numerous ways, but it doesn't require in-person at all. In fact, I actually closed my physical office for the first time in 20 plus years in June because my entire world has just turned virtual. So it makes it available to people anywhere at any time.
It's fascinating. Which is why I want to have you back. So I understand that you might possibly actually have a free gift for those who are listening.
Yes, I do. I'm so excited to be able to share this with your audience. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I have a very comprehensive MP3 audio. It's a class called Live Pain Free, Remove the Hidden Causes of Your Pain and Suffering. It's an MP3 audio that you can download to any device, and it comes with an accompanying workbook, an e-workbook, for those of you who like to write and are more visual. And this is a deep dive with more information that you really need in order to understand what we've been talking about here today, to get down to the hidden cause of your pain and suffering, your symptoms, your patterns. And it will help you with any area of your life. It doesn't have to be just physical pain, but it's designed to fast track you to rapidly resolve the challenges you're going through once and for all. And there is a demo, a short demo of the biofield healing method on this audio. And then the workbook, I encourage you to do the written work also, because it will actually stimulate parts of your brain that will bring up some of the unconscious reasons that you're not aware of and start to bring that into your conscious mind. And I've seen many, many people just from this complimentary MP3 and workbook, just from this alone, turn their whole life around, their health around, and get their energy and their life back on track. So I'm so excited that you're allowing me to offer it to your community today. Thank you.
Thank you for your generous gift. It means a lot. I'm hoping that y'all take Deborah. I just said y'all. I moved to Florida from Connecticut 3 years ago, and I think it's official. So I invite every one of you to check out Deborah's free gift. Look for the link, as I mentioned, in the write-up of the description for the podcast for this specific episode itself. And Deborah, before I let you go, for those who are listening who may feel discouraged, possibly even hopeless, because they've been dealing with their patterns and their pain for so long, and they've tried everything, but nothing has seemed to work, what final remarks do you have for them?
If this is you, if you're suffering and you don't know why, and you've been trying to fix yourself and you just can't figure it out, please don't stop. Don't give up. Never lose hope, because you just haven't gone deep enough. And I want to really highly encourage you to find someone. If it's not me, find someone that you trust that can help you go deeper to find these hidden reasons. Because I promise you, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not cursed or stuck or blocked. There just is more that you haven't seen yet. So please take the next indicated step and don't stop. The only people who quote unquote fail are the ones that stop short. And I promise you, there really are answers.
Love that. Thank you, Deborah. Everyone, I hope you found today's episode helpful. Thank you, Deborah, for giving us your time and your energy and sharing this space with us. You are a blessing. And thank you again to every one of you for joining us on the Calling the Real You podcast. You can find us at callingtherealyou.com or Facebook page Calling the Real You. I wish to thank a few people before we go today. Number one, my husband, Eric Horton, who's my best friend and business partner, along with Reverend Patricia Brooks, because without her, this platform would not be made available for Calling the Real You. And also our sponsors and supporters, Lux Salon and Spa, Yola Portraits, Karen DeFelice Designs, and the transformational music of Jim Oliver. Thank you to all of you. Have a wonderful week, and remember to call the real you out.